Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. Welcome back for another episode. I'm absolutely thrilled today to have with me Tyler Mann. Tyler is a movie director, and although we probably should spend the entire podcast talking about his background in terms of Captain America, Star Wars, everything else I can see back there, we're actually here to talk about his film, I Voted the Movie. So, Tyler, with that incredibly long winded introduction, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Hey, yeah, my background has to compete with yours with all those awards. No, I'm having a great day. I'm so happy to be here, and I can't wait to talk about my film. It's my debut
Abs-
feature.
Absolutely. Tell us how you got into producing and directing movies.
Yeah, I've always been into filmmaking ever since I was a kid. I made little stop motion videos with army men in my front yard using cotton balls as smoke and stuff. And then I've been to film school, and ever since I've just been into acting, filmmaking, and yeah, that's like pretty much what I do full time.
So there was recently a 6 or 8 part documentary on ILM.
Oh, I loved
And
it. Yes.
yeah, and all those guys in the 60s and 70s were doing exactly what you just described. It was so
Yes.
cool.
It was a great doc.
Yeah. Okay. Where'd you go to school?
I went to the University of Texas at Arlington.
Okay. And what got you to Austin?
So I grew up in the Austin area. I went to Georgetown High School and everything. And so I went away to school, but I came immediately back because I just love the Austin area. And this is where I want to plant my roots.
As this is a podcast dedicated to filmmakers and filmmaking. It's supposed to be in the hill country, but it's as broad as I want it to be. But I was really intrigued by what I saw in you as the intersection of film politics and leadership and indie filmmaking. Can you maybe let's start with there and see where it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it.
So, what do you see as the intersection of all those?
They all rely on each other, really. I think filmmaking is the most expressive art form and the one that can have one of the biggest impacts. And a lot of films, I think, tend to shy away from having any political messages or even acknowledging politics. And while I think it's important to address that, we do it in a way in our film, I Voted, is obviously political. It's about an election, a bunch of strangers going under lockdown during a tense presidential election, and then inevitably them talking politics. And so we show the full political spectrum and both sides of it and show their point of views authentically. And what we try to do is show the people behind the politics. So it's not just about what each side believes or having a great debate. It's really about the people and why they believe what they believe, and just kind of showing that today's political climate. And I think it's important for films to address what we're going through now, when a lot of films tend to shy away from it, or, oh, we don't want to go there, we don't want to worry about offending anybody. I think it's important to shine a light on it. And with leadership, you can't make a film without a leader. You can't have politics without a leader. Leadership is super important for all of that. And it was my first time directing a feature film. I've directed short films before, but it was really interesting that I found myself in the first day or two, because I had a new crew and I had this experienced director of photography right next to me who was fabulous, by the way. I loved working with him. But I could tell that my own ego was kind of getting in the way, because I was worried that maybe, oh, everyone's gonna listen to him because he's way more experienced. He started his director of photography career in a Roger Corman film in 1985. So he's been doing it for a long time. And
Right.
here I am directing my first feature, having to collaborate with him, and he knows his stuff. And while I have a pretty good grasp on everything, I am definitely more green than him. On set, he would come in and like sometimes feel a little commanding over the scene. And I would find myself like coming over to, yeah, I do that, trying to assert my opinion. And then I had to take and worry that the crew and everybody saw me as a leader. But I had to take note that in those moments, why am I feeling this way? And it was insecurity and my own ego, wanting people to see me as this leader. And so it was really good for me to make that realization. And I think a lot of people need to do that whenever they're in situations of power, that leadership is not about getting the credit for it. It's not about, oh, everyone listen to me. It's about me. It's all about what is best for the project. And that's in directing, and also in terms of, if you're in politics, what is best for the people. So yeah, that's a very interesting how you mentioned how they all cross and intersect. And I think for me, recognizing my own ego and was the way that I could, and pushing it aside is the way that I could best lead in my first experience directing. And yeah, it's such a collaborative process. And for me to be like, no, my ideas are the way that it has to be, is just so limiting and hindering onto the success of the film if I can't incorporate everybody's.
That's a level of self-awareness I didn't achieve till much, much later in life. So kudos.
Oh, I'm still working on it. I'm not
Yeah,
perfect.
it's a never-ending project.
Yeah.
So what was the inspiration behind the idea for the movie? You mentioned some of the things that were in the movie, but what kind of intrigued you to want to make this movie at this point in our country's history now?
Yeah. So it's actually funny. This is based on a true story, believe it or not. Me and my wife were going to vote in the primaries at a middle school, local middle school. And we voted, we slapped our I voted stickers on, we were heading out the door, and we were stopped just as we we're about to cross the threshold out the door by sheriffs in Kevlar vests and ARs, rifles. And they told us we couldn't leave. They told everybody inside to stay put. And they told people who were coming up to vote that they couldn't enter, no one in, no one out. And we still never figured out what the reason was for it going on lockdown, but we sat there for an hour and a half. So it's much boring than our film ends up being. But we left there after a while. They let us go, and we had a movie idea on the car ride home. This was such a good setup for a bottle movie, putting in all these people who can represent the whole, not the whole, we did as best we could. We missed for sure some demographics, but a wide range of demographic perspectives into one environment and just have them talk it out. And so, yeah, we wrote it, and this was in the March of 2020. We had the idea. We thought, oh, we can't make it in time for the 2020 election. And then it just kind of sat aside for a while, but we always kept it in the back of our minds. And then I got an opportunity to pitch a movie to a private investor who was interested in seeing what it was like to be in the film business. And I pitched a different movie that was a very sentimental, romantic road trip between a couple. The guy has Alzheimer's and she's 8 months pregnant, and they go to find a man who can give him his memory back before the birth of their daughter. And I pitched it, and he was like, it's too kind of sentimental for me. It's not really my vibe. And I was like, okay. So I had to pivot real quick because I was like, I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. And I knew he was into politics, so I pitched that movie. It was not written yet. And then this was probably 4 months before we actually shot it. And so I was, 4 months, because it was in like about May. And so then he was like, what? That happened to y'all? That's an interesting movie idea. I would love to read the script. And I was like, we don't have a script. Let me send you the treatment, and I'll get back to you with the treatment and see if you like that. And then I'll get you the script. And so we wrote like a full 3-page treatment in just maybe a week or less than a week, and sent it to him. And he was like, I love it. Where's the script? And I was like, give us a couple weeks to punch it up. And we just want to make sure it's really good for you. And then me and my wife wrote it in 2 weeks, the first draft, and submitted it. And then we got the green light that he wanted to make this with us. Then we worked on it, revising it ever since up to the shoot. And even during the shoot, we had our actors really develop their own characters in a way that they could contribute ideas and lines and backstory and stuff. And in the editing room, it's never fully written. But yeah, it was such a fun experience.
When was the movie released?
So it's premiered at film festivals. It was premiered last year and during the lead up to the 2024 election, but we have not released it for the public to view yet in terms of like digital or theatrically yet. We've been like really trying to figure out what we want to do with this, because we really want to make sure our investors get the return on their investment. That's really important to us. And so we got like actually 3 or 4 offers from distributors, and we brought it to our entertainment lawyer and to our investor, and not all the terms are so bad. The state of the like indie film industry right now in terms of distribution, trying to make money, is really tough. And we turned down those offers, and now we're exploring our own route of self-distribution. We might do our own theater tour and then release it on streaming platforms. The same thing that like the distributors would have done, but they are going to take all the money for it. So we didn't like that, and we would like to cut out the middleman and retain rights to our film and just kind of see what happens.
That's what CJ Goodwin did with his movie Mayor of the Night.
Yeah, I've been really inspired and impressed with what he's done with that film, and I want to kind of adopt something similar.
So what was the festival circuit experience like for you?
It was great. We're still kind of going through it. We're actually going to premiere at another festival in Tacoma, Washington, the Zion Film Festival, in the end of the month. But we have had such an overwhelmingly positive reaction to this film. People have come up to us afterwards telling us like this film addresses kind of what I feel like the country's been going through, but in a way that hasn't been yet. Like, people aren't talking about how this is, even though it's in the news all the time, it's sensationalized, it's in our face, we hear about all the things going on, but we don't hear it from a human level, like how it's affecting people every day. And that's what our film strives to do, is show it on each one of these individual characters, how politics affects their lives and how their lives inform how they believe. And it's been really cool. I've been really nervous because we played in some wide variety of festivals in terms of like where you can tell their political leanings are. And each time we expect the Q&A after it's done for people to be like, why did you do that, or whatever, and have an uproar and kind of, but every time we're impressed that it's just actually such a great Q&A. Everyone's engaged. Everyone has so many questions. We don't try to completely say that like the people are one way bad or another, in like they have the things that they do, but it's all rooted in their characters and the situation. And we want everyone to kind of come away with, I can actually kind of see why that character did what they did or believes the way they believe, without trying to spoil anything. So yeah, it's been really great. We were trying to get it out to more people because we do believe this is a film that people need to see. It's kind of bold. We go to places that a lot of films don't go, and that can be tough for some people. We have had some like reviews written from people who I think are upset, but mostly when we talk to people and like full theaters of people, they've had all good things to say. And maybe it's because they're flattering me, I don't know, but I truly believe that people are impacted whenever they see this film.
Let me turn to the filmmaking process itself. What were some of the biggest challenges you had on this shoot? And then what are some of the biggest rewarding moments that you had as well?
Oh yeah. Okay. So it was a very challenging film. For indie film, they tell you keep it small cast of a couple people. We had an ensemble cast. We have, I think, 14 people locked into this polling location, all just sharing the whole environment and screen time together. So that's a thing that they tell you not to do on your first indie film. We had a kid worked with kids, and the kid is actually deaf. So we had to have an interpreter and a sign language instructor for the other actor who plays his mother. And so that was a challenge. And then doing a bunch of, without spoiling too much, a bunch of stunts and fighting and visual effects towards the end that were also very ambitious. So all of that, taking on these challenges that typical indie, at least first indie features, don't do, was, I think, something that was really rewarding and will help us stand out from other typical indie films. And then, yeah, we had the opening shot. It's not the opening shot, but it's like the main opening shot. You'll know it. It's a 4.5 minutes long single take shot as Anna enters in the polling location. We enter in with her, and we go with her throughout the whole voting check-in line all the way up until she's about to vote. And we do it in a way where we are also introduced to all the characters who are going to be here. And so we set a whole day for that one shot, and we rehearsed all day. We got the actors who all day, they know it. We got the steady cam operator. He knew what to do, but we had to wait for it to get like sunsetty nightish in order to shoot it. And then we had to wait for the kid to also get off of school. So he had to come from school and then join us. So he wasn't rehearsed. And we only had 3 takes at this shot. We also had another actor who was going to do a night shoot on another film, and so he had to leave right away. And he was gracious enough to give us like an extra hour or so we could get the shot. So he was like needing to leave. That just all the pressure of this time constraints on this one shot, and we did it once, and it had an error, so we had to go again. We did it twice, and I was like, I just need one more. We need to adjust this thing, and then we did it a third time, and everyone's, oh, we gotta go. We're fighting everything, and we nail it, and everybody just erupts. Like, everyone was so excited that we all watched the shot together in playback, and everyone's like, we did it, we got it. And to have that feeling of our whole crew and cast triumph together was just like one of the best feelings on set. It was great.
As a viewer, that long shot, lengthy one take shot is one of my favorites. And I think I now understand why. It's because everyone has to be so focused to get it right,
Yeah.
or you're gonna have to do it all again. And whether it's 4 minutes, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's 12 minutes, I love those. And now I think I understand why. Yeah, very cool. You mentioned the politics is obviously a part of this film. Is that something you were able to address directly so a character could talk about their politics? Was it confrontational between the characters? Were you able to have almost a dialogue of different views? And not that people changed their minds, but you were able to present the views you wanted to present?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the whole film. When we wrote it, we knew the plot points, but then when we actually sit down to write, the hardest part was that, like, it's about 2/3 of the movie where it's all conversation, and it's between all the characters, this ensemble cast, who are just amazing, by the way. Every one of them delivered in spades. And so figuring out how to build the story in terms of building tension, while also, it's not hard to build tension when people are talking politics, right? But to do it in a way where we're guiding the audience through and revealing deeper things about each character and revealing why they believe what they believe was really the toughest part of the whole thing. And the characters at times do kind of hear each other and agree on certain points that maybe they didn't when they walked in here. But then, of course, to reflect authentically what at least it feels like now in this political climate, where it's hard to talk politics in a way where people don't get heated and don't get triggered and don't feel like they're getting personally attacked, because so many people have their like whole identities wrapped up in their political beliefs. So that allowed for us to build tension up when certain topics get too heated, and then we bring it back down a little bit, and then we bring it up, and then we bring it back down. It's we kind of are constantly slowly bringing up the tension throughout the whole thing. It's like watching a pot as you turn on the heat and start to boil, until at the end when things turn into a whole different tone of movie. It's almost like I say the beginning is very Breakfast Club, like a political Breakfast Club, but also 12 Angry Men. And then it shifts into how would Quentin Tarantino end those movies?
12 Angry Men meets Quentin Tarantino. Very cool. Tyler, what are one or two things you might either advise or tell a budgeting filmmaker about when they're getting ready to do their first movie where they're the director?
Yeah, the ego lesson that I learned is a huge one. But really, as a leader, in setting out on such a daunting task as making your first feature film, I would just advise people to listen is like the biggest thing you could do. Listen to your crew, your department heads. You know, you hired them for a reason. They're there. They will advise you and bring you the best ideas. But then if it doesn't match your vision, like, you have to also, so listen, but also have a strong vision and have just a point of view, like, for your whole film, like you have a message. And so being able to then, that'll make everything so much easier. If you listen to the people who know what they're talking about, because that's why you hired them, but then determining if that matches your vision or not helps you make those really hard decisions throughout the production, because they're going to pop up on, okay, let's go with this. Oh, we had a location fall through. Let's go with this instead. And you have to be open to all those things that are going to come up. We had a location fall out 2 weeks before we were actually shooting, and the way we shot this, we shot in one location for the entire month. We had 3 weeks of shooting in this location, so we just rented out a whole location. And so when 2 weeks before it fell through, we just got to have faith that it's going to work. And you got to be like, okay, we are going to figure it out no matter what. I know that's like probably 5 things that I would tell people all jumbled together, but yeah, you got to listen, you got to have a point of view, and you got to make decisions. But is that a weird answer? This is
not at all.
Okay. There's so much that goes into directing. It's hard to put into a sentence, but yeah.
Let me ask you some questions that may be a little bit more fun. Tell us one movie director who really inspires you.
There's so many, but I would probably have to pick Christopher Nolan in his earlier works, for sure. Like, he can be divisive, but like, he talk about someone who was determined and had a vision, but yet listened to his department heads. Trying to tie it back into the previous question, but his storytelling was unbelievable with Memento and The Prestige. Like, he was breaking new ground and showing that you can do so much more with this medium. I know he's probably influenced by a lot of filmmakers before him who have done similar things that he took from, but I'm really impressed with Christopher Nolan, and I always want to strive to make films that are that clean, but yet sometimes they have a little grittiness to them, and just such a well-crafted story. That's what I really want, is a well-crafted story. And I've super huge influence on me is Richard Linklater as well, who I've actually worked with for many years, but in a different capacity from film. But he's so inspiring in the fact that like anybody can pick up a camera and make a film, and that's what I love.
So what is a film you think every new filmmaker should watch?
Ooh, okay, these are great questions. It's tough because I'm such a huge fan of films. There's so many, but I would have to say, again, Memento. That film does the standard 3-act structure of storytelling. It's there, you believe it or not, yet it is also so unconventional and nonlinear, and it kind of just completely, for me, that was a huge shift on like how a movie could be told. And watch Memento, watch it again to analyze it, and then again and again. I could watch it so many times.
What does creative integrity mean to you?
It means that you are showing your perspective. Like, creative integrity, you have to be true to your voice, true to your perspective, and that makes also a strong director. If you can stick to your guns, stick to your vision, while also integrating other people's ideas, the creative integrity of the film will stay intact even though it's changing. It's almost like the film itself it just has to be, and you are the caretaker of that film, bringing it to life, and you have to get it from point A to point B while maintaining your creative integrity and while staying true to what you want to say. There's going to be a lot of things that come up, such as money. Investors have little messages that they want to make sure in the film. Constraints that are going to tell you, we can't afford to do this. We legally can't do this. I don't know. But there's going to be so many obstacles and constraints that are going to try to hinder you in how you tell your story. And if you can maintain your creative integrity for your overall vision and what you want to say, then your film will still come out after hurtling all over all those obstacles the way it's meant to be. I don't know.
Tyler, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode. But before we leave, I wanted to ask you, if our listeners wanted to connect with you, find out more about your work, or check out any of your sites, what would be the best place or places for them to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Ruinedman.com is my production website, production company website. You can look at some of the other works that we've helped on, other productions. IVotedTheMovie.com is also a great way where you could check out what is happening with our film, I Voted. And we're going to add in some focus groups soon. So, opportunities for people to sign up, and you can actually watch the film and give us feedback on it so that we can best tune it for when we do the official release. And then you can check us out on at Tyler Lee Mann and at Ruin Man Productions on Instagram. So you have Instagram, you have IVotedTheMovie.com, and RuinedMan.com are the best ways to follow what is going on over here.
Tyler, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to visit with me. I hope we can continue this conversation.
Yeah, man, this has been great. Thank you so much for having me, Tom.